Hey y'all. There's no cooking video this week. I ended up not having any new recipes to try. I went back and did some old ones. I also had quite a bit of leftovers from last week that I needed to get through. Because this is the first week that I'm starting my semaglutide compound, I thought I'd sit down and have a conversation with you guys about why I had to quit Wegovy. Because we have a lot of new people to the channel. Welcome. If you are new and you haven't subscribed yet, I would love to have you join my YouTube family. Anyway, just wanted to kind of sit down and give like a short synopsis of my journey so far and kind of where we're going from here. If you are new to my channel, I have been on Wegovy for the past 24 weeks, which is about 5.5 months. And in that time, I've lost 64.4 pounds. So I started around 65 pounds. I started around 365 pounds, and as of this last week, I was at 301. So I am very, very close, like so close I can taste it, to being underneath that 300-pound mark, which is my first goal. I've had a lot of people asking me kind of what my goal weight is and all of that. And while I do have a number in mind for like an end goal, I'm trying not to focus on the end goal and instead set smaller, more manageable goals. Obviously, this first chunk wasn't really that manageable of a goal, in that my first goal was to get under 300 pounds, which I needed to lose over 65 pounds to get there. But now we are very, very close. So that's my first goal, is to get under 300 pounds. After that, my goal is to lose 100 pounds total. And then once I've met that goal, I will probably set goals in 25-pound increments until I get under 200 pounds. And then my kind of primary or initial end goal is to get to 175 pounds. I have not been under 200 pounds probably since I was in high school. So I have no idea what my body's going to look like or feel like once I get to that weight. Once I get there, I'll kind of reevaluate if I want to lose more, if my body feels like it will lose more, because I'm in my 40s, and like I'm starting to get closer to 45. So I really have no idea, where my body's going to be or when it will decide that it's done losing weight. So that's kind of my primary end goal, is to be around 175 pounds. And then once I get there, I'll reevaluate. When I was in junior high, we were seeing a naturopath, and we're on a diet plan and supplement plan. And I got down to around 145 pounds. And during that time, even though I was very muscular, I have an extremely large bone structure. So I was still classified as overweight, but you could literally count my ribs. You could see them visibly from the outside. So looking back now, I still felt like I was fat then as a kid, because I grew up in the 90s, in the early 90s, when the heroin chic thing was a thing. And so I still felt like I was fat. Looking back on it now, I feel like I was too thin. So I definitely don't think I will want to get under 150 pounds, but honestly, at this point in my life, I don't know that my body will allow me to get that low. So for me, it's not so much about the number on the scale at the end. This is a health journey for me, and making sure that I'm taking the pressure and the weight off of my now arthritic hips, knees, and tailbone. I already feel a million times better. I have way more energy and way more stamina than I did when I started this whole thing. Much less pain than I used to have, and that will just continue to get better as I continue to lose weight. So let's kind of get to the kind of the heart of this video and the reason I'm talking about this, which is why I had to quit Wegovy. Again, if you haven't been here for a while, then you may not know I have a high deductible health plan, which includes a $4,500 deductible that has to be satisfied before my prescription coverage will kick in. So my prescription coverage is part of my high deductible health plan. I've never had that with any of my other insurance that I've ever had in my entire life, but that is the way that it is. So my insurance will cover Wegovy, but the problem is that I have to meet that $4,500 deductible, which is not something that me and my husband have ever done in the history of our life together. And we just celebrated, or we're going to be celebrating our 13-year wedding anniversary this year. So anyway, in order to stay on something that was very similar to Wegovy, if you don't know, is semaglutide. It is also the same exact drug that is in Ozempic. It's just the maintenance dose on Wegovy is a much higher dosage than the maximum dose of Ozempic. As of now, Ozempic, the max dose is 1.0. In a couple of months, I believe it's been approved to increase to a max dose of 2.0. The max dose on Wegovy is 2.4. So I was on the max dose of 2.4 when my $25 bridge card that I had, I started in 2021, and that $25 bridge card ran out on my 24th week. So I could no longer get the drug for $25 a month because my insurance coverage won't kick in. So in order to stay on semaglutide, I was able to get in contact with a compounding pharmacy that made a semaglutide compound. So the question that I've been getting a lot lately is, what is a compounding pharmacy? How do they work? There's a lot of misinformation floating around about compounding pharmacies and what they are and how they're regulated. Compounded prescriptions are not regulated by the FDA, in that a compounding pharmacy can use whatever components it wants to in order to manufacture a prescription. But all of those components that are used have to be FDA approved. So for example, a compounding pharmacy can create a semaglutide compound that also has acetate, that has B12, that has any number of things to help try and maybe combat some of the side effects that you can get while taking something like Wegovy or Ozempic, and they can compound them into a prescription to issue people that will maybe be something that's a little bit more effective for them, because then they're able to help combat some of those side effects. So the compounding pharmacies are regulated by the state boards of pharmacy. So they are regulated by a state agency. They fall under the purview of the FDA. So the FDA can still inspect these compounding pharmacies. They can and do inspect these pharmacies. In order for a compounding pharmacy to produce a injectable version of semaglutide, they have to be a sterile facility, and they oftentimes have much more strict and more rigorous protocols and things like that they have to adhere to than a regular pharmacy would, because they're manufacturing a sterile product. You do need to make sure that you do your research on the compounding pharmacy that you're using if you decide to go that route, because there are some that, even though they are regulated that way, they don't abide by those regulations. And there have been cases in the past where those facilities that maybe weren't as clean as they should have been, or weren't taking the precautions that they should have been taking, have distributed drugs that have been either made people sick or had given them reactions because there was cross-contamination. So make sure you're doing your research on the pharmacy that you use. Make sure you're looking at reviews. Make sure that you are looking into all of that, because you want to make sure that you're using a reputable pharmacy. So compounding pharmacies were originally created, or originally the purpose of compounding pharmacies was to create drugs to satisfy the needs of patients that couldn't be satisfied by FDA approved drugs. So for example, drugs that had been discontinued by the FDA, or by the drug manufacturers. So drugs that and this happens a lot with elderly patients, they'll find a drug that works really well for them, and then the drug company that makes that drug will make something new, and they don't want people buying the old drug, they want them buying the new one. Unless the drug was, sometimes they're discontinued because a lot of people experience side effects or whatever. But for those people who were on that drug, who were experiencing good results with it, when that drug is discontinued, really the only other option they have if they want to continue taking that drug is to go to a compounding pharmacy, and they can continue to create that drug. The other thing is, sometimes people are allergic to dyes that are put into drugs to make them a specific color because they want them to look a certain way. So a compounding pharmacy can manufacture that drug without the dye in it, so that the person can still take it, even though, it has everything else the same, just doesn't have the dye in it. The other thing is, for example, let's say somebody is incapable of swallowing a tablet and they need something in liquid form. A compounding pharmacy can make a liquid form of a drug instead of a pill. So those are just some of the examples of why compounding pharmacies were originally created. But now, with the soaring cost of prescription prices, a lot of compounding pharmacies do business basically recreating versions of prescription drugs for people to afford using cash instead of using their insurance. So I am going to be taking a semaglutide compound that is made by my compounding pharmacy, and I use Stonegate Pharmacy in South Austin, Texas. They make a rapid dissolve sublingual tablet. So it's just a little pill that I stick under my tongue, and I ingest it that way instead of a subcutaneous injection. So I'm not having to deal with needles anymore. I don't have the pens. I don't have to deal with the, safe disposal or any of that has to go with needles. So I'm actually kind of excited about that. Anyway, So I'm going to be starting that this week, and you'll see the video this Friday of my first week of taking the tablet and my experience with that. The other question that I've been getting from people is, are you going to continue to make videos and update us on your progress even though you're not taking Wegovy anymore? Yes. My intention is to continue making the cooking meal plan videos and the results videos for as long as my time and energy allows me to. This has been a really good accountability tool for me to make sure that I'm staying on track even when I don't feel like it. Even though, a lot of you have said that it's been helpful for you, it's been, just as helpful for me to know that I'm being held accountable to report my progress to you guys and to let you know how all of this is going for me and what works for me and what doesn't. The other thing I do want to let you guys know, while I am still taking the Semaglutide Compound and I'm taking that, I will still go back on Wegovy if I can find a way to do so affordably. I would still recommend, if you have the finances to do it, to go on the name brand Wegovy. Yes, the compound is a lot less money, and if that is the only way that you can afford to do it, then awesome, go that route. But I can't just, in good conscience, knowing everything that Wegovy did for me in the last almost 6 months, say, oh no, just get the compound, forget Wegovy. This drug has literally saved my life. So I do encourage you, if at all possible, use the other avenues that you can. If you have an insurance that covers Wegovy but requires a prior authorization, there are companies out there that can help you. There are resources on the internet that will tell you how to get a prior authorization approved. Definitely exhaust those avenues before you take a compound, because you never know how a compound is going to work. I don't know how the compound is going to work. So I definitely recommend, if at all possible, go on Wegovy, go on Ozempic. If I had the option to do that myself, I would still be staying on Wegovy for sure. So that's really it. I know this is probably going to be a pretty short video, as my videos normally go. If you're interested in more on my journey thus far, and you're getting ready to start Wegovy, or you have questions about Wegovy, I've got 24 weeks worth of videos on my progress as I made my way through this journey on Wegovy. And again, if you're not subscribed, please do so. I would love to have you here. And I think that's it. All right, guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye.